House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCaul called GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy's plan for the Russia-Ukraine war a surrender to Russian aggression. I think that would be a surrender to Russian aggression, just like we surrendered to the Taliban, McCaul said Wednesday in an interview on CBS News, referring to the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan in 2021. McCaul was asked about Ramaswamy's foreign policy platform, which was detailed in the Post on the American Conservative earlier this week. In the Post, Ramaswamy said he would accept Russia's control of the territories its forces have taken and pledged to stop Ukraine from joining NATO in exchange for Russia ending its military alliance with China. This is not just about Russia and Putin, it's about Chairman Xi Jinping and China and their unholy alliance, McCaul said. When I went to Asia, what happens in Ukraine will impact what happens in Taiwan. I think that this is a very risky foreign policy. Ramaswamy was the only candidate during the first GOP presidential debate last week to raise his hand when asked who would not continue to support aid to Ukraine, prompting backlash from some of his 2024 rivals. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley, they spelled her name wrong, they put Hayley, slammed his stance, claiming he had no foreign policy experience, and it shows. What I did notice at that debate was that 6 of the 8 candidates were very strongly supportive of our efforts to contain Russian aggression, McCaul said. And then the last candidate was somewhere on the fence that if Europe stood up to the plate more, then he would be more supportive. He added, referring to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' position on the issue. The Pentagon has provided more than $43 billion in direct security aid to Ukraine since the beginning of the war in early 2022. Last year, Congress approved $47 billion in total direct security assistance. Defense officials in recent months have said accounting errors fret up a few $1 billion, but the Pentagon is unable to say how much funds are left exactly and how much has been spent. On Tuesday, the U.S. announced it would send a new security package valued for $250 million, including more small arms ammunition and munitions for missiles for Kiev. God, this goes on and on and on. So I want to read before I give my position, what Jem, one of my favorite commentators, wrote about this conflict 5 months ago. The West does not want peace. The first step in ending a war is a ceasefire. Ukraine gave up its sovereignty when it broke the Minsk Accords and it attacked the Donbas, killing 14,000 civilians. Before the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, they were warned by Russia to stop and return to the Minsk Accords. Both Ukraine and the West ignored Russia, and this is what triggered Putin to invade. Putin's goal now is to push back the borders of Ukraine, just like what Turkey did to northern Syria in 2021 with response from the world. Focusing on the first part of that, in a ceasefire, you can imagine that neither side is going to be completely satisfied with the end result. So when Ramaswamy in his plan says that he would accept Russia's control of the territories its forces have taken, I think that's in the, so he doesn't outright call this a ceasefire, at least from what I've read in response to his position, but it's a lot more attractive to me than what the White House or a lot of these other Republican presidential candidates are saying, which is basically, let's continue this conflict indefinitely. Let's keep throwing money at this problem. Let's keep pledging our support for this country that most Americans probably couldn't find on a map to save their life. I am basically saying that this is not the right position to try and attack Ramaswamy over. The idea that you are giving some type of concessions in an attempt to pursue peace so that this war that's already been going on for over a year now will finally be over is just something that has to happen when you negotiate. I mean, a surrender to Russian aggression, just like we surrendered to the Taliban. No, we very much, and unfortunately, I was put in a position where I had to defend Biden. Biden has done a lot of things that I don't like or were not as good as I thought they should have been. But getting out of Afghanistan is not one of them. We were in that conflict for over 18 years. I don't know how anyone can look at that and say, "Hey, let's just stay here forever." So I'm not I will never be upset that he withdrew troops from there, and I wish it happened a hell of a lot earlier. That's my only regret. I wish his predecessors had been as quick to do it as he was. But this comment is actually more indicative of something else that's kind of been brewing a little bit. So there were like CNN and Fox News did these interviews with Ramaswamy that were kind of antagonistic. I know that Hannity did one with Ramaswamy where like by the end of it he cut him off and just turned the whole thing off altogether. And what you're seeing is that the establishment in the U.S., whether it's the reporters, these different news stations, or now even a committee chairman in the House, are afraid of him. They like, if Ramaswamy was still polling at 2, 3, even 4%, and it's like he's in this big crowd of 12, 13 people, nobody would be saying anything about his positions. But now that he is effectively, could be argued as the third place person, like the person right after Trump and DeSantis, there's a lot more concern about, hey, we got to snuff this guy out. We got to make sure that, he doesn't get in there and do anything that doesn't go along with whatever the status quo is. Because make no mistake, most of these Republican candidates, the White House, all of, like, just there is a bipartisan coalition around protecting Ukraine to such an extent that it includes doing whatever they want with no semblance or sense of an idea of when this could possibly be over. If these people get their way, we could be sending aid to Ukraine for another 3, 5, or 10 years. I'm not even kidding. That's how forever wars are. It starts with, oh, there's this thing, we're going to send some troops over here, and then, it's one president, and that person's tenure ends, and then the person that is from the other party that is supposedly supposed to be their complete opposite does the exact same thing and keeps it. I mean, this is just how it goes. They find some conflict to artificially inflate the length of. And even, again, as someone who's not some big Ramaswamy backer, I can at least respect the fact that his position seems to be, we need to end this conflict. We need to find some kind of way, even if he's not directly calling it a ceasefire, to give some concessions to Russia so that they can come to the negotiating table and we can have this resolved. I can more so appreciate that than a lot of these other people, because they don't seem to really have any solution. It's just give Ukraine more money, and like I said, these are the same people that when you want a wage increase of $1, they'll tell you it's too much, but they can find a way to give Ukraine hundreds of billions. That's why I said it's all the U.S. A lot of these politicians over here are just so obnoxious because they're just like so blatantly sold out to these defense contractors, like where all the fiscal conservatives, I want to make sure that we don't crash the national debt, but you're completely fine with giving Ukraine as much aid and money as could be even imagined. So, like I said, I'm glad that he took this position. I'm sorry that the establishment of both the media and the politicians is like coming after him over this, because there's stuff you could go after him for, but it's not this one. And like I said, this is more so just further proof to me that he's now the third front runner of the race. I get the third place person, and the fact that DeSantis has been floundering for as long as he has means that Ramaswamy could very, very soon become the number 2 person. And like I said, if Trump ends up having to drop out, it's going to be a complete just front runner status in seconds. So they're very worried that they might have to end up doing things with him in the future if they don't snuff out his campaign as soon as possible.